Yes, you can see your screen.
Yes, I
Okay.
can see your screen, sir. Good everyone.
Yeah. Good. Good day. Good day. Okay, so awesome. Now, this subject matter we are actually looking into is a very important one because I'm sure many of us who are, new in the crypto space who must have been hearing, stake. Some of us might not even be familiar with what yield farming is, and some of us might not also be familiar with what liquidity provision is. Okay, now these three are similar, all right, because they have to do with you, um, bringing in your crypto, like using your crypto to generate more crypto, right? Using your crypto to generate more crypto. That is having to, but for when we're talking about staking now, many times you must have been familiar with the word staking. They tell you, okay, go and stake your coin, go and stake your asset. All right. So now, what that it means is simple. Now, I'm talking about staking. Staking involves holding funds in a cryptocurrency wallet to support the security and operations of a blockchain network. Simply put, staking is the act of locking cryptocurrency to receive reward. Now, in simple language, staking has to do with in simple language, yeah, staking has to do with you, putting back your cryptocurrency into the blockchain, right, in order to support the security and operations of that blockchain network. Okay, now staking comes from, sorry, there's a mistake, it's not stacking, it's staking. Now, so staking comes from a consensus mechanism called proof of stake, right? Now, because in blockchain, there are different types of consensus mechanism. We have proof of work on which Bitcoin and Ethereum operate, right? And then we have proof of stake on which other coins like Solana, like Luna, like Atom, Osmos, and other coins like that who operate on proof of stake. This proof of stake comes from a group of validator, right, coming together, putting a pool of funds into the blockchain, right, and locking it up. Now, by locking it up, they are providing strength, security, and smooth operation of that blockchain system. Because with these funds, they won't be withdrawing that funds; they will lock it there, right, for a fixed period of time. They can decide to leave it, right? So there might just be a rule whereby if you want to unstake your coins, it might take 14 days. Sometimes it might take 28 days, depending on the duration of the platform at which you are staking, right? So now, by staking now, those validators will stake an amount of crypto, right? Let's talk about Ethereum validator. Sorry, let's talk about Sol validators, right? So Sol validators, a validator might be someone with $20 million, dollars, worth of Sol, and that will be staked. That is, that person won't be withdrawing it, at any time soon, right? And even if that person wants to withdraw, that person can withdraw it immediately. It will take a longer period of time. It might be 14 days, it might be 21 days, depending on the blockchain network's duration period for unstaking, right? Now, those persons who support the blockchain network now are being rewarded. Are being rewarded, in form of an APY. An APY is annual percentage yield, right? The APY can be 30%, 10%, 20%, 100%. Can be 1,000 something percent, can be 200%, can be any percentage determined by the blockchain network, right? So now these persons who are called validators stake their crypto to provide security and smooth operation of the blockchain. Now, how do you as individual get to also stake, right? You get to also stake by staking with a validator, right? So there are series of validator on. Let me use the one I'm familiar with, which is the Atom network, right? So when you hold some atom, let's say 25, 50 atoms, right? And then you stake 45 atoms, right? With a validator. Now, that validator has given you access to also stake. Now, because you don't have that financial wherewithal, you don't have that financial buoyancy. You're not financially buoyant to stake millions of dollars in a particular blockchain network and still be fine, right? But these validators have that funds, so they stake it, right, to support the system. And if you, as a retail trader or retail investor, wants to stake, you have to stake through a validator. So when you stake through a validator, you are also supporting the network. You are also strengthening the network, right? And that is why the blockchain networks use this as to entice investors into the system, right? So you are not just staking for free. Once you are staking, there is a fixed percentage that you will get annually, right? And from the beginning of the day you start staking, that's when your reward starts entering in those little percentage, until a year, right? So imagine you stake 100 atom, right? Let's do a quick calculation so that you will know how worthy this opportunity can be. You can pull out your calculator, okay? And let's take atom, for example. Let's say you stake 100 atom. 100 atom is around $26. Now 100 atom is $2,600, right? That's 100 atom. So let's say you stake 100 atom, and the reward that you would have is 30%. I'm just giving an example. 30%, it can be more, it can be less, right? 30%. Now, 30% of 100 atom that you stake, 0.3. That's what 30, which means at the end of the year, you will be getting 30 atoms, right? Now, you will be getting that token. So imagine after the end of the year, when you bought 100 atoms, you bought them at $26. You can get your bio so that we can do the calculation together, right? You got them as $26 for one atom. Right? And you staked 100 atoms. Okay? Now, if you stake 100 atoms, at the end of the year, you are getting 30% of that 100 atoms that you stake. That is, at the end of the year, you'll be getting 30 atoms. Right? So if you are getting 30 atoms, if at the end of the year, the value of atom has now become $50, right? So that means at the end of the year, you started investing 100 atoms at $26. That's $2,600, right? When you started investing $100, 100 atoms. Okay. Now, if at the end of the year you'll be getting 30 atoms, that's 130 atoms. 130 atoms times, if atom moves to $50, right? That means you'll be getting back $6,500. No jokes. Right? So the percentage you'll be getting is the percentage of the token that was staked, not the percentage in dollars. Do you get it now? The percentage of the token. So imagine you get 30 atom, and if atom at the end of the maturity period, the value in dollars is now $60 or $100. That's a lot already, right? That is why smart investors who have funds that they can live for a long time, look forward to staking. Right? Look forward to staking. Even those who want to hedge their risk of market volatility can stake. So that if at all, at the end of the year, imagine you stake 1,000 atom or 50 atom, at the end of the year, you get 30%. So it would even help you to hedge against inflation or market volatility, because you'll be getting additional atoms. I don't know if that makes sense, right? So that's staking, right? So in summary, before I go to the next one, in staking, you have to lock your funds. You have to lock your funds. You can't remove it anytime soon. Okay? So the next one is liquidity. The next one is yield farming, right? Yield farming. Now, when we talk about yield farming now, yield farming is a way to make more crypto with your crypto. It involves lending your funds to others through magic of computer programs called smart contracts. In return for your services, you earn fees in form of crypto, in form of what? In form of crypto, right? You earn fees in form of crypto. Now, one interesting thing about yield farming is that you earn from transaction fees, token rewards, interest, and price appreciation, right? You earn from what? Transaction fees, token rewards, interest, and price appreciation. So now yield farming is more risky and complicated than staking, right? Because in yield farming now, you have to go through some blockchain networks, because it's quite easy for you to stake. You can just go and select, a validator to stake with, right? But yield farming has to do with a lot of process. Okay. Now, this session is not to show us the process, but just to help us understand what yield farming is. Maybe some other time we would look into practicals of how to engage with yield farming. Okay? Right? We look into practicals of how to engage with yield farming. So when you want to farm, yield farming does not lock your fund, does not have to do with you locking your fund, right? But has to do with you giving your funds, making your crypto available to be used to lend to others, right? Because it's a decentralized system where some persons might want to borrow money, right, to carry out a transaction, but don't have that money, right? So they will once you make your crypto available to be used, right, for funding others' need, right, for funding others, either lending and borrowing, in the pool, right? So the person that needs funds can then take from that fund, and use it, right? So, but that person will be returning it with an higher percentage. So now imagine somebody borrows 1 BTC, right? And the system says, okay, you would refund 1.0%, or you would refund 1.5%, right? So as the person is refunding 1.5%, from that 1.5%, and the part of the fees are going to you. Why? Because you are like a bank, right? So it's more like a bankless bank. So you are the bank now providing liquidity for the market. So you will earn from transaction fees because the funds that you made available, in the pool, right, in the liquidity pool, would help strengthen the ecosystem of the blockchain network. So somebody can come in and borrow funds, use for other stuffs like that, they can use for credit facilities and less like that. And then they can use for various type of things. Now, as they are carrying out those activities with your own money, right, you are earning from the transaction fee, you are earning from the token rewards, you will also be earning interest, and you also be earning from the price appreciation, right? So, but that's why yield farming, is very, very lucrative. There is high profit in yield farming. Also, there is high risk in yield farming. So when I'm talking about risk, I'm not talking about is not the kind of risk you face when trading in futures market. No, right? So what I'm saying is that it has its own kind of risk too, peculiar to it. So it is more volatile than staking. Staking, you just take it and leave it there, right? But in this one now, you are providing liquidity. Okay, it's more complex as well, right? So that's yield farming, and there is more profit in yield farming. Okay, there is more profit in yield farming. Okay, now the next one we talk about or look into liquidity provision. Liquidity provision. Now, the thing I want us to understand here is that both yield farming, right? Yield farming, staking, they are similar to liquidity provision, right? So liquidity provision is commonly understood as an act, as acting as intermediary by continually trading in and out of relatively short-term position. Right. So now, by providing liquidity is also similar to what yield farmers do. So similar to what stakers do. Right. So you are providing liquidity, you are providing funds, you get, into the market. You are making funds available. So this also has to do with you using your crypto to earn more crypto. So by providing liquidity to the system now, there is also an APY that you also get, right, from providing liquidity, to the system. So liquidity provision is not so common, but on Terra Station, you can provide liquidity by staking the stable coin, that's UST. So when you stake UST, you can also provide liquidity, right, with another UST. I don't know if you get my point. So on Terra Station, you can stake and earn reward. You can also provide liquidity. Okay. Now, one of the platforms that I wanted to farm one share. In one of our sessions where we invited one guest speaker, he talked about it, right? So yield farming is one way to make a lot of money in the blockchain space, right? That's if you're a conservative investor. You don't want to do more features trading and the like, because this yield farming is more of what these guys did during their time before this CEO of FTX, was farming cryptos back then before finding them, FTX, and also doing some other things like arbitrage and all that. So these things are very lucrative. So this session is to enlighten you about this concept, right? And you want to go and do your own personal research to understand how, right? What we're giving you here right now in this session is the what, okay? So you might want to go and research on the how. How do you engage in yield farming? Probably in one of our sessions, we might look into the how to carry out to farm cryptos, right? I think that will be an interesting session to look out for. So would put that into our radar. Okay, so that's all for tonight's session. I don't know if anybody have question and would like to ask your question. You can either unmute yourself and ask, or you drop the question in the comment section. Yeah, so yes, you can ask your question.
All right, so let me just quickly ask a question on liquidity pools. Looking at the liquidity pool now, I think who are the major sources of funds in a liquidity pool? Because it is very easy for people to just say, okay, I'm going to add liquidity to this number of pools. But the projects, that is the CEOs and founders of that project, are they also not expected to add liquidity? Do they add liquidity? That is the question, Sam.
So can you come again with your question?
I said the projects, take for instance now, for a project that is building, let's just assume SafeMoon now, do they need to add liquidity, do they need to add liquidity to the liquidity pool? Like let's say for, like I said SafeMoon now, so let's say SafeMoon USDT, are they going to add liquidity to the SafeMoon USDT pool, SafeMoon BNB pool, like these separate pools? Or okay, let me leave the question at that, Sam.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for that question. So now let me explain liquidity provision in this way. Now, in our country, in countries, we have what we call Federal Reserve, right? Federal Reserve. And in our Federal Reserve, there is a particular amount of money that must be in the reserve, right? Like there's a minimum that must be in the reserve. This is so that the country can have funds to fall back on whenever there is a crisis. Okay. Now, same thing, we can picture that as liquidity provision in blockchain, right? And founders of projects, it's very important for them to also be a liquidity provider, right? That is, they must have part of their own tokens, right, in that project, reserved, right? They must reserve it, they must lock it, right, to provide liquidity, for their blockchain network. I don't know if I've answered your question.
All right, that is the first one. Secondly, I was asking now, do they have to provide liquidity for each pair? Take for instance, we're having 3 pairs. We have, let me say I'm using BNB now. Do they have to provide liquidity for BNB, USDT, BNB, let's say Ethereum, BNB, maybe another particular token like that?
You mean the founders of those tokens?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so what I said here right now is that each founder of tokens, right, would have to have a reserve. You get that is part of their funds also must be reserved in that project. So it's not necessarily they have to go and have liquidity in other projects. So they can have liquidity in their own project. Now, like for Lunar Terra that I know about now, there is the stable coin, provides liquidity and support for Luna, which is the volatile coin, right? So UST is used to provide liquidity for Terra in downtimes, right? So this project, a founder might not have to provide liquidity on different, tokens, right? So you might want to focus on providing liquidity for a particular token, but for founders, they must have their own liquidity provided in that pool. That's if I get your question very well.
Okay, I think let me rephrase now so you understand better. Now, a liquidity pool, now we know definitely if there are funds in a liquidity pool, it aids decentralized transactions. Now, I'm trying to ask this question now because when you want to make a trade, let's say you want to make a trade from BNB to, let's say you want to make a trade from BNB to USDT or USDC. These are two different pools. You have BNB tagged to USDT and BNB still pegged to USDC. So these are like two different pools. So my question is, do the founders now, do they provide liquidity to these two different pools, or the liquidity in these two different pools, are they just being provided by other investors alone?
Okay, so now the liquidity provision is done by the founders in the two tokens and also the investors, right? So since it's a decentralized system, right? So the founders are providing liquidity, investors are also providing liquidity. I don't know if that's clear.
Yeah, it is.
All right, thank you very much. So I don't know if any other person have question. If you have your question, you can just unmute. And interestingly, I would encourage you to start, trying out staking. Okay, you want to stake. The ones I'm familiar with is Luna, Atom, Solana. I don't know if for Luna you can stake on Terra Station. For Atom you can stake on Cosmos Cosmos Station. For Sol, you can also stake on the FTX platform. You can stake Sol, you can stake Radium. Yes, on the FTX platform. You can also use I think Phantom. You can also stake Phantom, right? So you want to start exploring this staking, yield farming, liquidity provision. But then one of these days we'll do a practical session on yield farming. Okay, any other question? All right. Okay, in the absence of no questions so far, I would appreciate you all. And interestingly, we have a challenge coming up, more like a competition where we want to reward active users and participants on Finsmart. In the Finsmart community, it's a contest, and then they would announce how this contest will go, what would need to be done to be part of those winners. We have grand prize of $50, $30, and $20 to give out. Okay, so just keep an eye on the community. Let's keep engaging together. If you have any question, you can ask. If there's any subject or any topic that you want us to touch for our next next session, you can always share with us. All right. Thank you very much for coming to today's session. I look forward to seeing you next week.